So model, view, and controller. All these three components come together to make one design pattern that's conveniently called the Model View Controller Design Pattern, or MVC for short. It is one of the most common design patterns for developers to use, but what is it? And why should we use it in our .NET projects? Well, let's get into it. But before we jump into the project, let me ask you guys, if you guys end up finding this video helpful, please drop a like on this video so it can spread to more developers on YouTube. Thank you. So here I have an actual MVC project running that I created here. I'm going to walk through the steps and actually show you guys the three components that make up the MVC pattern, as well as I have this diagram that again also visually represents what this pattern is and the components inside of it. So like I said, it is three components: the model, the view, and the controller, as you can see right here. It is an architectural design pattern, as in like it has nothing really to do exactly with like a certain programming language or something like that, but I am talking about the MVC within .NET specifically because this is the type of project that I'm showing you guys, and that is my specialty. So we have model, view, controller, and let's begin kind of with the view, which is clearly the UI. As you see here, it's what the user sees. It's what the end user interacts with, and it can contain, drop downs, button, text boxes, all that stuff that are commonly on websites that you see whenever you go on the internet. That is a view. But bound to a view is usually an underlying object or model, which is the middleman between the view and the backend. It holds the data and it goes back and forth with the data from the view to the backend and vice versa. It usually can contain some rules or validation for its given properties. And if I go to the project, I can show you guys the model that we're using here. You can see that we have this views folder, models folder, and controller. And in here, we have a player. So this is just going to show a list of basketball players for my favorite team, the Chicago Bulls. And we have a player model here that shows that we have a string, int for first name, last name, number, age. So our data, when we go and get the list of players, it will bind each property to each part of this model and then serve that model to the view like we just talked about. And then finally, we have the controller, the third component in the MVC design pattern. It is what processes the model, and it acts and reacts according to the user's interaction or input by manipulating the model or showing the new view that has been requested. It does this by having methods that the view will route to depending on the actions taken by the user. And you can see this right here where the view can go directly to the controller and then just serve back a new view without actually having any data or model. Or you can have the long route, which goes from the view to the controller to the model and then back to the view to show to the user. And all this starts with user interaction on the view. So there's like an arrow that's basically right here, and then you have this, or you have back and forth. So what are the advantages of MVC? Well, it divides up the application into three manageable parts. It allows full control to the developers, and it makes it easier to test. It also does a good job of decoupling the code. Coupling describes how dependent two entities are to each other. Ideally, you want lower coupling, so changes to one entity doesn't mean you have to make a ton of changes to all other aspects or all other entities in your project. So now that I've gone through each of the three components, I want to show you guys how this actually works in a real .NET MVC project, because I want you guys to actually see this kind of working in an actual project and me not just kind of show you this diagram and then peace out. I want you guys to actually get the full experience so you guys know how each component interacts with each other and the flow of this going this way and also the flow of this going this way. So let's begin with, this is our project. It is a default project, but I did add in an extra view. This view will just show all the Chicago Bulls basketball players that I have in this list right here. And the flow that we're going to demonstrate here is going to be the one where I interact with the view. I'm going to click the link, which will hit this endpoint right here. It will go to the controller and it will say, hey, the user requested this page. And that page means we have to go get the player's data, bind it to the model, which will be here, and then come back and show the new page with the view. And that will be done by hitting this list endpoint. So now let's go through that whole flow. So coming back to our application, we see that we have this default page, and that is the page that is right here. As you can see, kind of building web apps with .NET Core, that is this part right here. And then I have this click me link right here that is going to link to my home, which is the home controller, and the list action, which is this one, which is to show the list page, which is this, which is just a for loop that shows all the players that are going to be bound to this model. And this is the data that is right here. So now let's actually show me clicking it and how this kind of goes through. So we're going to click this. This is me, the user, interacting with a view. So this is me doing this part right here. Click. Now we are at the controller. So now we've gone from here to here. And now we're sitting at the controller. And now we need to bind the model. And then the model goes to the view. So now we step through this. And once we step through, we see that the data was correctly bound to the model, and then the model was correctly inserted into the view, and we're able to show, the 5 basketball players that I had in this list. As we can see right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, DeMar, Alonzo, Alex, Ao, and Zach, and we can see those right here. So everything's correctly here, and now we can see how we kind of went from view to controller, model, back to the view. And that's that long workflow. But now let's say I, the user, just want to go to a new page. I don't really care about the data. I didn't change anything. I just want to go to another view. And we want to do kind of this workflow, like front here and now back. How do we do that? Well, let's show it. Well, this path will be achieved by just clicking the home button. This will hit this index method right here and just serve up a view with no model, no data, no anything. We are just routing to a view, and that will achieve this path right here. So as you can see, I'm going to click the home button. We're going to hit this, and now we're just going to return a view, no data, step through. And now we are back at the main page where we started. So those are kind of the 2 workflows for this design pattern. And the structure of your application will probably have, kind of the controllers, your models, and your views. It's going to keep it simple, straight for new people that maybe get on this project, or for you just going forward, there's always going to be a certain structure, and it just keeps your things organized, keeps your code a lot cleaner, and it's just easy for you guys as you maybe scale it up. And if you enjoyed this design pattern, you may be interested in how to design your .NET API to take full advantage of them. So check out my video on the repository design pattern right here.